It was almost midnight when I finally left the house party. My phone battery was low, and I just wanted to get home fast. The street was quiet. Too quiet. I opened the rideshare app and requested a taxi. Within seconds, I got matched. The driver's name was Ray. 5-star rating. Over 2,000 trips. I felt a little better. The car arrived in less than 2 minutes. A black sedan with dark windows. The headlights blinked twice as if it was greeting me. I got in. As soon as I shut the door, the smell hit me. Not bad, just strange. Like burnt matches mixed with something sweet. I looked at the driver. He didn't smile. Didn't say a word. Just nodded once and started driving. His hands on the steering wheel looked stiff, like he was gripping it too hard. I tried to shake off the weird feeling. Maybe he was just tired. "Good evening," I said, trying to sound friendly. He didn't respond. I checked the app again. My destination was correct. Everything seemed normal, but the car didn't turn the way it was supposed to. Instead of heading toward the highway, we were driving into a darker part of town. I cleared my throat. "Excuse me, I think we missed a turn." Still no answer. His eyes were locked on the road, and he didn't even blink. That's when I noticed something even stranger. The radio was playing soft music, old, like from the 1950s. But it wasn't music. It was someone humming. A woman's voice. No instruments, just humming. I looked at the radio. It was off. My heart began to race. "Hey, sir, can you please stop the car? I think I'll get off here." He didn't stop. The dashboard lights flickered. My phone screen froze. I tried pressing the power button. Nothing. Outside, the roads were empty. No cars. No people. Just fog rolling in like waves. The street lights blinked, then went out, one by one, as we passed under them. I was fully awake, but it felt like a dream. A bad one. I reached for the door handle. It was stuck. I pulled harder. Still nothing. That's when the driver finally spoke. His voice was deep, but empty, like it was coming from far away. "You requested the ride. Now you must reach the end." I froze. The rearview mirror tilted slowly on its own. I looked into it and saw something that made my blood turn cold. My reflection wasn't mine. It smiled, but I wasn't smiling. I stared at the mirror, frozen. That face, it looked like me, but something was wrong. The eyes were too dark, too still. The smile was stretched unnaturally wide, like it had been painted on. My own face, mocking me. I looked away, shut my eyes, tried to breathe. When I opened them again, the mirror had cracked. Not shattered, just a single crack, running across like a scar. But the reflection was gone. It no longer showed anything. Just black. I turned to the driver. "Please stop the car." He didn't respond. His hands were still locked on the wheel. Eyes forward. But his mouth moved slightly, whispering words I couldn't understand. They weren't English. They weren't even words I'd heard before. I reached into my pocket, hoping maybe the app had recorded the trip. Maybe someone knew I was here. But my phone was completely dead now. Not just powered off, dead cold like it had never been charged. I tried the window. It wouldn't budge. The lock button clicked uselessly. Everything inside the car felt fake. Like I wasn't in a car anymore, but inside something else. Something pretending to be a car. We passed a street sign, and I leaned closer to read it. It was blank. No letters. No numbers. Just a rusted pole with a white rectangle. I said louder, "This isn't the way to my house." That's when he finally turned his head toward me, slowly, painfully, like his neck hadn't moved in years. But when I looked into his face, it wasn't the same man I saw earlier. The skin around his mouth had peeled. His jaw looked broken, hanging slightly open. His eyes were hollow, not just tired, but empty, like someone had scooped the soul out of them. And yet he spoke in a calm, low voice. "There's no going back." I gasped and grabbed the handle again. Yanked it, kicked at the door. The car didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. The world outside was changing. The fog had turned red, glowing softly, like blood under a flashlight. I saw a figure standing in the fog on the side of the road. Then another. Then two more. They weren't moving. Just standing. Watching. They had no faces. I started screaming, pounding the windows, begging someone to help me. But the sound didn't seem to go anywhere. It bounced around inside the car like the air was too thick. The driver said one more thing before everything went silent. "You'll see the truth at the next turn." And just like that, the road ahead bent sharply to the right, but there was nothing there. No buildings. No ground. Just black. A hole in the earth. And we were heading straight into it. The car didn't slow down. It sped up. I gripped the door handle tighter, but I already knew it wouldn't open. We were seconds away from that black hole in the road. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear anything else. Every part of me screamed to jump out. But where? There was no ground anymore, only the endless dark. And then we went in. No crash. No falling. It was like the car floated through space. Everything went quiet. The headlights didn't work anymore. There was no road. Just blackness all around. I couldn't see my hands. I couldn't even see the driver. I waved my hand in front of my face. Nothing. The silence was too perfect. So still that it made my ears ring. Then I heard it. A knock. Not on the window. Not on the roof. It came from inside the car. 3 soft knocks. Like someone was sitting behind me. I froze. I didn't want to turn around. Every instinct said don't. Whatever it is, don't look at it. But my neck started turning. Slowly. Against my will. The back seat was empty. But something was breathing there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. Warm air brushed the side of my neck. "Who's there?" I whispered. No answer. I reached for the lock again. My fingers shook so hard I missed it twice. Then suddenly, the car lights flashed on. We were on a road again, but not one I recognized. The trees on both sides were tall and twisted, like their branches were reaching down, trying to grab the car. The sky above wasn't blue, or gray, or night. It was red, blood red. The driver hadn't said a word, but I noticed something. He was crying, silent tears running down his cheek. I leaned forward. "Why are you crying?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed to something in the distance. Through the windshield, I saw a small building. A gas station. The first sign of life in what felt like forever. A flicker of hope sparked in me. I didn't care if it was real or not. I needed out of this car. As we got closer, I saw someone standing outside the station. A woman. She looked straight at me, like she was waiting. And then the driver said something that shook me to the core. "You've been here before. You just don't remember." I stared at him, heart racing. "What do you mean?" But he didn't respond. He stopped the car right in front of the gas station and turned his head toward me, slow and stiff again. "It's time." I didn't know what he meant, but I opened the door and stepped out. The air outside was heavy, not cold, not warm, just wrong, like something pressing down on my skin. I stepped toward the gas station. My legs felt weak, like they didn't belong to me. The woman at the door didn't move. She was wearing a red dress, old and faded, and her face looked like she hadn't slept in years. Eyes too wide, too dark, like she could see through me. "Why are you here?" she asked. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't chosen to come. I just got in a taxi. "I was just trying to go home," I answered. She smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was sad. No one leaves once they arrive. I stepped back. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. Instead, she opened the door to the gas station. Inside, the lights flickered. The walls were stained. I saw shelves, but they didn't hold snacks or drinks. They held photos. Hundreds of photos. Each photo showed someone sitting in the back seat of a car. Different people, all scared. I walked closer and stared at one of them. It was me. Same clothes, same expression, same fear. I turned to run, but the woman blocked the exit. "He brings them here," she said softly. "The driver. That's his job. And now it's yours." I shook my head. No, I'm not part of this." "You are now," she said. Then she stepped aside. Behind her was a hallway that didn't fit the small building. It stretched far, far back, longer than any hallway should be. It felt like it went forever. At the end of the hallway was a chair, and a man tied to it. He was crying, just like the driver. "You must take his place," the woman whispered behind me. "That's the rule." "I won't," I said, but my feet started moving again. I didn't want to go, but my body didn't listen. Every step felt like it pulled me deeper into something I'd never escape. The man in the chair looked up. He had my face. He was me. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Just a scream I could feel in my bones. And then the lights went out. Everything went black. But I wasn't gone. I was still standing, or floating, or something in between. I could hear breathing. Heavy, wet breathing. But it wasn't mine. It was all around me. Then, light returned, but not from above. It came from the chair. From him. From me. My copy, the man who looked exactly like me, was glowing under a soft red light. His eyes locked on mine. They weren't angry. They weren't scared. They were hollow. I stepped closer, though every part of me screamed not to. The woman in red was gone. The hallway was gone. It was just me and him. And the chair. He finally spoke. "You sat in the back seat." I didn't know what to say. "You accepted the ride," he continued. "Now you must drive." I tried to step back. I didn't want any of this. He pointed at the floor. I looked down. A steering wheel had appeared beneath my feet. Not on a car. Just floating there. Waiting. I closed my eyes. I thought maybe this was a dream. Some twisted lucid nightmare. I'd wake up. I had to. When I opened them again, I was no longer in that dark space. I was behind the wheel of the taxi. Same cracked dashboard. Same quiet hum of the engine. But now, I was in the driver's seat. My hands were on the wheel. The mirror showed my face, but something about it was wrong. My eyes looked tired. Older. Like I had seen too much. The meter started ticking on its own. And a voice came from the back seat. "Thanks for the ride," a woman said. I turned slowly to look, but there was no one there. The seat was empty. Yet the voice returned. "I just need to go home." My mouth opened, and the words came out without my control. "Sure thing. I'll take you there." The wheel turned on its own, and the car began to move. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't speak. I could only watch. Watch as the taxi left that gas station, back onto the dark road, toward another person. Another passenger. Another soul. The taxi rolled down a road I didn't recognize. No signs. No lights. Just endless black trees stretching on either side like walls. I tried to press the brakes. Nothing. I tried to speak, to scream, to jump out. Nothing worked. I was awake inside my body, but I couldn't control it. It felt like I was a passenger in my own skin. Then, headlights. A figure appeared ahead, standing alone on the road. A girl, soaked in rain that hadn't even fallen. She held her arm out for a ride. I tried to blink her away, to convince myself she wasn't real. But the taxi slowed. It stopped. The door opened, and she stepped inside. She didn't say hello. She didn't give an address. She just whispered, "You see them too, don't you?" My voice answered, though it wasn't mine, "I do now." I watched her through the mirror. Her hair was dripping wet. Her clothes were from another time. Maybe the 90s, maybe older. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. They never let you stop, she whispered. Once you drive, you always drive. I wanted to ask who they were, but I couldn't speak. She looked outside the window, and for the first time, I saw movement in the trees. Shadows running alongside the car. Not animals, not human, something in between. The girl turned back to me. You're the fifth this week, she said softly. They keep getting better at hiding the door. I didn't understand what that meant. Then she leaned closer to the glass and pointed. That's my stop. The taxi pulled over. The place wasn't a house. It was a graveyard. She opened the door, got out slowly, but before closing it, she bent down and looked me straight in the eyes. Next time they ask you to sit in the back, don't. And she was gone. The car door shut. The meter reset. And then, another figure appeared up the road. Another rider. The wheel turned by itself again, and the taxi rolled forward. I was stuck, driving strangers, all of them dead, all of them knowing more than me. And somewhere deep down, I knew this ride wasn't ending anytime soon. I couldn't stop the car. I couldn't turn around. The wheel moved on its own. The light stayed on, even though the road didn't look real anymore. It felt like I was driving through a dream, or a memory, but it wasn't mine. Trees turned to fog. Fog turned into black water on either side of the road. I didn't hear birds. I didn't hear anything except the soft hum of the engine and something breathing in the back seat. Breathing. I didn't pick anyone up. At least I didn't think I did. But now, someone was behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. But I could see a shape in the rearview mirror. A dark figure. No face. Just a blurred shadow where a person should be. Then it spoke. You took her where she asked to go. I swallowed. My hands were cold. She was one of us, it said. You helped her. That means something. I wanted to speak, but my lips stayed shut. I didn't control anything anymore. Not the wheel, not my hands, not my voice. Still, somehow, I felt the figure smile. You're not just a driver now, it whispered. You're a guide. The fog thickened. I saw more people waiting ahead on the road. They weren't alive. Some waved, some just stood still. But every face I passed started to turn and look at me. Like they knew me, like I belonged to them. I tried to press the brakes. Nothing. I tried to open the door. It was locked. The seatbelt tightened around me like a trap. You can't stop, the voice said. Not until your shift ends. I wanted to ask, when does it end? But deep down, I knew the answer. It doesn't. The road had taken me. And now, I was part of it. Forever. The road stretched endlessly before me, but now it wasn't just fog or water on the sides. Shadows moved there, figures stepping closer, reaching out with empty hands. I tried to scream, but my voice was trapped inside my throat. The driver's seat beside me was empty, but I could feel someone there. Watching. Waiting. The air grew cold, colder than anything I had ever felt. My breath turned to mist. I looked in the rearview mirror again. The shadow was still there, smiling wider now. It whispered something I couldn't understand. The words sounded like a warning, or a curse. I tried to remember how I got into this car. The rideshare app. The driver's name. But my memory was blank, wiped clean. Suddenly, the radio flickered on, playing a song I didn't know. The music was slow and haunting, like it was coming from far away, but it echoed inside my head. Then, the GPS on the dashboard showed one destination, but it was not an address I recognized. It was just one word. End. The car sped up. Faster. Faster. I felt like I was falling and driving at the same time. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, but it wasn't me driving. The car was alive. Then, the shadow in the back seat leaned forward. You belong here now, it said softly. I shut my eyes, hoping to wake up. But when I opened them, the headlights showed a place I didn't want to see. A place where no one ever leaves. The car slowed down as it neared a quiet road, covered with thick fog. I couldn't see anything except the pale glow of the headlights cutting through the mist. Everything outside looked strange, like a world frozen in time. I tried the door handle, but it was locked tight. No matter how hard I pulled, it wouldn't budge. Panic started to rise inside me. The driver's seat was still empty. The steering wheel moved on its own, turning left, then right, like the car had a mind of its own. I glanced at the dashboard again. The radio was silent now, but a soft humming filled the air, like 1,000 whispered voices. Suddenly, the rearview mirror caught my eye. In it, I saw a pale face staring back at me. It wasn't mine. The eyes were empty, dark holes with no soul inside. I looked away fast, heart pounding. Then, from the back seat, I heard a voice. It wasn't human. It was rough, broken, and low. "Welcome to your final stop." The car stopped suddenly. Outside, the fog thickened and I saw shapes, figures standing still, waiting. The door unlocked with a click. I had no choice but to get out. My feet touched cold, wet ground. The air smelled of decay. I turned to look back at the car. It disappeared into the fog as if it was never there. And I was left alone with what was waiting. The car slowed down and came to a stop on a quiet, empty road. Outside, a thick fog covered everything. It was so thick that I could barely see the edges of the road. The street lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows that danced in the mist. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Something was very wrong. I reached for the door handle to open it and get out, but it didn't move. The door was locked. I pulled again, harder this time, but it wouldn't budge. My heart started beating faster. I tried the other doors, but they were all locked tight. The car felt like a prison. The driver's seat was empty. The steering wheel moved by itself, turning left and right like it was steering the car without anyone behind it. The engine hummed low, like it had a life of its own. I looked at the dashboard, hoping the radio would come back on, but the silence was complete. Instead, I heard a soft, strange sound. It was like whispering, but I couldn't understand the words. It was coming from all around me inside the car. Then, something in the rearview mirror caught my eye. A pale face was staring back at me, but it wasn't my own reflection. The eyes were dark and empty, like deep holes with no light inside. I gasped and quickly looked away. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the back seat. It wasn't a normal voice. It was rough, broken, and full of hate. "Welcome to your final stop," the voice said slowly. My breath caught in my throat. The car shuddered and then stopped moving. Suddenly, I heard a click, and the door unlocked itself. It opened slowly, creaking on its hinges. I looked out and saw the thick fog had grown darker. Strange figures stood in the mist, silent and still, watching me. I had no choice but to get out. My feet touched the cold, wet ground. The air smelled heavy, like old earth and something rotten. The fog wrapped around me like a cold blanket. I turned back to look at the car. But just as I blinked, it vanished into the fog. It was as if it had never been there at all. And there I was, alone, with whatever was waiting for me in the dark. I stood there, heart pounding, the cold fog pressing in all around me. The strange figures in the mist didn't move, but I could feel their eyes on me, watching, waiting. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. It was like the fog had stolen my voice. Slowly, I started walking forward, hoping to find a way out, a road, anything familiar. But every step felt heavier, like the ground was trying to pull me down. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps behind me. I dared not turn around. Suddenly, the whispering started again. The voices weren't just outside now. They were inside my head, soft and cruel. "You can't leave. You belong here now." Panic surged through me. I broke into a run, pushing through the cold mist, desperate to escape. But the world seemed endless, the fog never lifting. Then, out of nowhere, a hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around, ready to fight, but no one was there. Just empty air. I stumbled back and fell to my knees. Tears mixed with the rain that started to fall. I was trapped in a nightmare, with no way out. And as the darkness closed in, I realized this ride wasn't just hell on the road. It was hell in my mind. And it was far from over. The fog didn't let up. It wrapped around me like thick blankets, cold and heavy. I tried to stand, but my legs felt weak, shaking like leaves in a storm. Every breath I took came out shaky, like I was breathing underwater. I wanted to run, but I was stuck, frozen in place. The whispering grew louder, but now it wasn't just words. I heard names, my name, over and over, like someone calling me from far away, but also very close, inside my head. You can't hide. You can't escape. Suddenly, a faint light flickered through the fog. I squinted, hoping it was a way out. But the light was strange, flickering and twisting, like a candle struggling against the wind. I took a shaky step toward it, but the ground beneath me felt like it was moving. I almost fell. Then, I heard the car door slam behind me. My heart jumped. I whipped around, but again, no one was there. The silence pressed on me like a heavy weight. I could feel eyes on me, but from where, I didn't know. The light grew brighter, but it didn't feel safe. It felt like a trap, a lure to pull me deeper into the darkness. I wanted to turn away, but my feet wouldn't listen. I realized then that this ride, this nightmare, wasn't just about the driver or the car. It was something bigger, something that followed me, something that wanted me trapped forever. I whispered to myself, I have to get out. I have to fight. But the fog whispered back, you belong here. And in that moment, I didn't know if I was still outside or if I had already crossed into the unknown. The night felt heavier than before. The city lights flickered outside the car window, but inside, everything was strange, quiet and tense. I kept looking at the driver, but his face seemed different. The sharp smile was gone, replaced by a cold, empty stare that didn't belong to any human. I tried to speak, but my voice felt trapped inside me. The radio was playing a song, but the words twisted into something dark, almost like a warning. The driver didn't react. His hands moved slowly over the wheel, like he wasn't really driving but controlled by something else. Suddenly, the car stopped in the middle of a street that I didn't recognize. There were no streetlights, no people, just shadows stretching into the darkness. I wanted to get out, but the doors wouldn't open. Panic rose in my chest. I remembered my phone in my pocket, hoping to call for help. But when I grabbed it, the screen was cracked and dead. No signal, no light, nothing. I whispered, what is happening? Who are you? The driver turned slowly, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. His voice was low, like a distant echo. This ride, it's not just a trip anymore. You can't leave. My heart pounded. I realized I was trapped in something far beyond my understanding. The taxi ride from hell wasn't over. It was just beginning. The car started moving again, but this time the world outside looked twisted, like a nightmare painting. The buildings bent and twisted, shadows danced on the walls, and the streets seemed endless. I tried to keep calm, but my hands shook and my breath came fast. I looked at the driver. His eyes were no longer human. They glowed with a strange, icy light. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It felt like a warning. I wanted to ask where we were going, but my voice failed me. It was like the air was too thick to speak. Suddenly, the radio crackled, and a voice whispered, "You can't escape now." The words sent chills down my spine. I tried the door again, hoping it would open, but it was locked tight. I tried to think fast. Maybe there was something in the car I could use. I saw a small box on the floor, old matches. I grabbed them, wondering if light could help me find a way out. The driver's smile grew wider. "No one leaves the ride from hell," he said softly. I lit a match. The tiny flame flickered, and for a moment, I saw a face, someone trapped like me, silent and scared. Then the flame went out. Darkness swallowed the car again. My heart raced. How long would this nightmare last? Would I ever escape this cursed taxi ride? The car slowed down, and everything outside seemed to fade into a thick, heavy fog. I couldn't see anything. No streetlights, no buildings, just a dull, gray nothingness. The driver's face was still there, glowing faintly in the darkness, but his eyes felt colder, emptier than before. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling hands. I reached for my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. The screen was black, useless. Panic crept in. How could I be so trapped, so completely cut off? "Why are you doing this?" I finally whispered, my voice barely audible. The driver didn't answer. Instead, he turned his head slowly toward me, and for the first time, I noticed the way his mouth moved, like he was mouthing words without sound. Suddenly, the car shook violently, like it was hitting invisible bumps. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the windows like cold fingers. I tried to hold my breath, but the air inside felt stale, heavy, like it was closing in on me. Then, from the back seat, I heard a soft whisper. It sounded like my name, calling me, pulling me deeper into the darkness. I spun around, but no one was there. My heart pounded harder. The driver's hand reached out slowly toward me, his fingers long and pale. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I felt frozen, trapped between fear and disbelief. Suddenly, the car doors unlocked with a loud click. I hesitated for a second. Was this freedom or another trap? The whispering grew louder, more urgent. I took a shaky breath and opened the door. Outside, the fog swallowed me whole. I stepped into the cold mist, not knowing if I was stepping into safety or something far worse. The moment I stepped out of the car, the world around me was swallowed by thick, icy fog. It was like stepping into another realm, silent, cold, and endlessly dark. I couldn't see a single thing beyond a few feet, and the chill pierced through my clothes, making me shiver uncontrollably. My heart raced like never before. I turned around, expecting to see the taxi still parked behind me, but it had vanished. No headlights, no engine sound, nothing. It was as if the car had never existed. The driver, that terrifying figure, was gone too. Alone in this empty, foggy void, I felt completely exposed and helpless. Then, out of the silence, a faint sound reached my ears, distant footsteps. Slow, steady, and coming closer. I froze, straining to listen, but the fog hid whoever, or whatever, was approaching. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to obey. A whisper floated through the mist, almost like a warning. It said my name. My own voice echoed back to me, distorted and hollow. I looked around wildly, trying to find the source, but all I saw was endless white. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed my shoulder. I jumped and spun around, but again, no one was there. The fog swirled violently, making my vision blur. I could feel a presence all around me, watching, waiting. Then a voice, low and chilling, spoke right into my ear. "You should never have taken this ride." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Panic flooded me, and I ran blindly into the fog, desperate to escape the nightmare. But every step felt heavier, like the ground was pulling me down. Just when I thought I couldn't run any further, the fog began to clear. I found myself back at the city streets, the lights glowing softly, the sounds of cars and people returning. I was safe, or so I thought. When I looked down, I noticed my phone was in my hand, the screen cracked, but still glowing faintly. A new message blinked on the screen. "Next time, you won't be so lucky." The horror wasn't over. It was only just beginning. That terrifying taxi ride changed everything. What I thought was a simple late-night trip turned into a nightmare I can't forget. The driver wasn't just strange. Something else was controlling him, something otherworldly. Even after escaping the fog and returning to the city, I realized the horror was far from over. That final message on my phone is a chilling reminder. Some rides don't end where you expect, and some nightmares follow you home. Always be careful who you trust, especially late at night.